I want to ask this delicately, but you played Jesse Metcalf's friend. You played Jay Ryan's friend. At what point in time did you realize that Hollywood didn't see you as the leading man?
Oh, um, probably, probably when um, probably when I got the part on Law and Order: Criminal Intent, and I
Okay.
was playing Lulu, who was second string to a character named Chops, who
Yeah.
was the actor that played Telly in Kids. I don't know if you remember Kids, the movie. He was the
Yeah.
lead in Kids, and um, he's a decent looking good guy, but he's not a leading man. And I was
Yeah.
playing second string to him. I knew that. Also, right when I was meeting my manager and Vic and Sandy, uh, Vic kept comparing me to. I was not as big. I was much thinner. I was not not as bearded as I am now. But he kept comparing me to Norm from Cheers. He's like, you could be. He's like, I see you succeeding in comedy and TV. That's your doorway, and that's where I feel like a manager helps. Is like, there's so many different platforms and doorways into this career and into a career that to have a manager that says, I really see you as a recurring character or a series regular on a TV show, comedy,
Yeah.
um, and saying, okay, I'm not going to try to get in every door. I'm just going to try to get in this one door. And that's what the pilot was. That was the first comedy pilot. My first thing I booked for big time was the Law and Order. That was more of a drama, but I feel like he used that as a, you know, he's got a sense of humor, he's got a comic look, and yet he can also do this stuff.
Yeah.
Um, and I've always kind of prided myself on that range, like good at a lot of things, still not great at any one thing, but good enough to get work in both.
Yeah. No, you're much better than good enough. I've seen you in a lot of projects, not Beauty and the Beast until
Yeah,
this
yeah,
morning, but
yes.
you're definitely good.
I would
Um,
say I'm neither the beauty nor the beast.
I think that's a fair statement. I
Yeah,
would subscribe to that as well.
yeah.
Um,
Most people would, right?
Although my kids tend to think that I certainly have a part of Beast in me quite more often than I think I have.
Yes, yeah,
So, yeah. Then again, you did your run. It was a great series. You did a bunch of stuff after that. I just
yeah,
I wanna dive into a few things because again, as a Jewish New York kid, growing up, you probably watched Seinfeld, and then you get a chance to do Curb Your Enthusiasm. What was that like? Because to me, that would be like, okay, I made it. I don't care what else happens now. I'm here with Larry David.
yeah. I think the craziest thing about that. So I got that audition. Obviously, I had a resume.
Yeah,
I
of
had,
course.
I don't know if I did Life Unexpected yet, but it was around that time, either right before or right after Life Unexpected, that I did Curb Your Enthusiasm. And
Mhm.
my my brother is a teacher in LA and was teaching one of Jeff Garland's kids, right? So I had come into contact with Jeff because he buddied up to my brother, being from Chicago and my brother from New York, and sports fans. He's a Cubs fan. My brother's a diehard Mets fan. We were Mets fans. So
Yep.
a little fun rivalry, and my brother's down to earth, and he's very friendly, and a lot of the teachers, I mean, the parents tend to gravitate towards him because he's like that type of a teacher, and great with kids as well. And so he um, comes back. We were living together at the time, and he's like, "So Jeff, Jeff's going to get you an audition," and he said he's going to cast you in something, and like that's what he told me Jeff said he was going to do. And and my brother Jeremy is like, you've never seen him act. How do you know? Like he's like, I could tell. I could tell. So um anyway, I get the audition, and he obviously, I got a little help because I wasn't in that comedy improv world at the time. I was doing dramas and other things and movies, indie films and commercials. And so when I went to the audition, all the part called for is on the breakdown is a waiter.
Yeah.
That's all you get, right? So you're going in for a waiter. You show up at the audition, and there's probably like 8 slips of paper this narrow, and it says waiter. You pick the one that says waiter at the top. It says you are Larry's waiter, and he's eating with a friend, and then he wants to know what the friend tipped. That's all it said, right?
Yeah. Yep.
I was like, okay. And they had like, I would say 10 of each, and I just put it back down because I'm like, do I need to memorize that? Like, I know what it is. So, and I'd done that. I'd been a bartender, I'd been a busboy, and I'd been a server, so I understood what that required. And so it was just a matter of hanging with Larry and not kind of falling on my face and making his jokes better, or being a foe to him. And so I walk in there. He's sitting there. It's I'm about to improv with him. Jeff's there, which is also awkward. He's like, "Hey, what's up?" And I don't remember if he whispered to me then or afterwards whether he's like, "I got you the audition, but it's Larry's decision. I can't do anything else after that." I think he did that. He caught me afterwards, but basically Larry's like, "You're my waiter. I'm sitting with a friend, and I want to know the tip." He's like, "Don't give it to me." He's like, don't give it to me." So I just came up with cordial customer service reasons why I wouldn't share the tip. And then he starts doing, he's like, "I'm not comfortable with this." Like, he wants me to scratch my face. And this was in the audition. So we're doing it, and like people are laughing, and he keeps on trying to do different things. And he's like, "Oh, okay. Was it higher or lower than?" And then like we go through the whole thing, not everything from the scene, but we start debating it. And he's like, and then we go back and forth, and I still don't give it. And he was like, kind of staring at me, laughing. And he's like, "Thank you, that's great." He's like, "Great." And I walk out and I get the part, and I show up to set, and people start talking about all the Seinfeld characters, that's their first episode. And I see on the call sheet Jason Alexander and Michael Richards.
Oh my
and I'm
God.
like, oh my God. His friend that he's having lunch with is Jason Alexander and Michael Richards. And I'm like, oh my God. And even before I'm doing the scene, I'm sitting at lunch because it was they had other things going on there. I'm sitting at lunch, and everyone's regaling Michael Richards there, right? And I'm like, oh my God, like I'm doing a scene with Kramer and George Costanza. Like, I'm like,
Talk about the Mets.
What?
Talk about the Mets.
I know, right? Exactly. I know. The only thing missing was Keith Hernandez. But what was really funny is, so, it's improv. I'm wearing waiter gear, and there was a lot of like people, extras, background, all that stuff, other waiters, and it looks like a real restaurant. It's not like, doesn't look like a set. They have 2 cameras running. You do a lot of takes. You do a lot of improv. Jeff Garland showed up just to kind of be there for me, which was cool. And but I get into this. So I'd done the scene with Jason Alexander, where I'm sitting in the back waiting, and I have to come back and keep checking on them to get the tip from him, ultimately, the first tip. And so do that. And I really wasn't there for the scene, but I'm standing back there laughing, and knowing that I have to come in on a certain cue and not laugh in the scene and beat the waiter was hard. And then we finally get to the Michael Richards thing, and I keep bringing him green tea. Like he wanted green tea, and he's talking to me, And I don't know if he was doing it as an actor, but he was talking to me as if I was the real waiter. Like,
Wow.
you know, and and then we start getting into like a side conversation about like, you know, where I went to school, like what I do for a living, right? Like, I was like, I'm a waiter, but I'm a teacher during the day. I just don't make enough money. Like, I start making shit up, like in the improv mindset of like, you know, I went to UCLA, I went to film school, but you know, I figured I have to, you know, pay back student loans and I'm making stuff up totally. And he's talking to me like the waiter, and he keeps telling me, he's like, can we get like a little more green tea, a little more honey, you know? And I'm like, sure. Like, I'm like, I was like acting like his waiter, and I don't know if he was doing. I never know if he was doing it on purpose or he thought I was the actual waiter. And I was like, dude,
Awesome.
it was all post his meltdown. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know if he had been around too many people or on too many sets since then. So he was interesting guy. I mean, love Kramer, but
Yeah.
interesting actor.
That's amazing. Another childhood dream, and again, I'm living mine
Yeah,
through yours. But you just got to do Agents of Shield recently. You know,
yeah, yeah,
all of us want to be superheroes. All of us want to be on a Marvel, you know, or a DC set.
yeah, yeah.
You were dressing up as Superman. So what was that like? Did the kid in you say, "Where am I and why am I here?"
Well, it's funny because as a kid, I was a superhero fan,
Yeah,
right? I loved Underoos. I loved the cartoons. I loved the Superman movies, Christopher
yeah,
Reeves, and or Christopher Reeve, and Batman with Michael Keaton. Like I loved all those movies. I was, you know, uh, so I grew up not necessarily on the comic books, but I grew up as a superhero fan,
yeah,
um, and Caped Crusaders more so than um, people with superpowers. Like I was even into the Greatest American Hero when I was a kid. Like it was a little before my time, but you know, I was past my bedtime, so my parents would let me stay up to watch it. I think it was on at 8 uh, in the early '80s or sometime in the mid '80s. But great, um, love that kind of comedy and that, you know, Wonder Woman, Shazam,
yeah,
all that stuff. I love the movie, film, and TV and cartoon versions of superheroes, but didn't really read comics.
yeah,
Um, so I'd always been pining after like a couple of, you know, I had a audition for Doom Patrol that I was like, oh, I'd love to get this, like, you know, be in the DC world. I had a potential audition that they changed the character, so I never went in for either Arrow or Flash, and I was like, it was like I'm looking to get back to like Toronto or Vancouver. There's such, you know,
yeah,
nostalgia in those two cities because I lived there for a while.
yeah,
But I wound up booking Lucifer, and then a
yeah.
year or two later, Agents of Shield, getting the check marks off of the DC and the Marvel universe.
Yep.
And the only thing I regret about the Agents of Shield bit, they're very similar characters, ironically. So I was like, make sure these characters aren't too much alike because then it's like, um, then that's my thing, that's my shtick,
Yep.
to be a Jewish kid from Brooklyn. Um, but I didn't really get to do any scenes with the Agents of Shield, the team, even though I saw them around and
Yeah.
I was invited along with the rest of the cast to the table read,
Mhm.
and not knowing that this was the last season that I was participating in, I felt like they were extra celebratory, and you know, it was one of the best, most fun table reads I had ever been in, with all the cast around, even the ones that weren't in it, reading and laughing and um, just supporting everyone. And like specifically Henry Simmons, um, his daughter goes to my brother's school. Like small world, and like when you teach at a private school in LA, a lot of your
Yeah.
students have parents who are in the industry. So I've crossed paths with a lot of parents from my brother's school. And so Robert Patrick on Scorpion a couple years ago. But anyway, so Henry Simmons was really, he's like the nicest, sweetest, biggest guy I've ever been. He's huge, but he's like a gentle giant, you know? And also so cool, like, and really cool. And when I've seen him at like school events afterwards, he's like, I saw the episode, man. You were great. Great job. I'm like, thanks, dude. I mean, I hadn't seen it. So
Yeah.
he was, you know, he's just a really good guy. And Lily Henstridge and Jeff Ward were really also on set, but not in my scenes. But they were just really like warm. Like I was just eating lunch, kind of getting my lunch by myself, and they came up to me. It's like, hey, what's up? How you doing? Like, how are your scenes going? Like, I was like, what? Like, this is weird. This is like, I'm not even in scenes with you, but you're being really cool and really nice. But so yeah, it was a great experience. Also with Lucifer, those guys on that set were, you know, amazing. I had worked with a couple before, and so that made it easier. But it was those people were really cool set, really cool writers, directors, and crew to be around. And it's amazing. I think all of the people give the sentiment that you were asking about working on those shows, whether it's DC or Marvel, knowing that they're basically living out their childhood dreams, no matter what part of the crew or cast they're on, they're being a part of bringing to life these stories. And, you know, what are the Greek gods for Americans, you know, modern day Greek gods, these superheroes that we make the most money, make the most entertainment, whether it's animation, you know, live action films or TV shows, and keep entertaining the masses, you know?
That's awesome. What's happening with your own series? What's happening with Kinetics? Did it ever? I know you had. I think a couple of years ago, you had something going on. Did that ever materialize?
So the Kinetics was for the people that don't know, it's a superhero team of kids in high school
Hmm.
that are students by day and a team of superheroes by night. But in our story, the characters and the kids all have chronic illnesses and disabilities or chronic diseases. So being a type 1 diabetic myself and knowing people on the spectrum, autistic spectrum, ASD as it calls, autism spectrum disorders, and a friend of mine that I would work out with in this class was born with no legs. So from the people I was seeing that were superheroes in real life, like her, and my nephew, and people in my world that I looked up to in the diabetes community as well. I'm always one to kind of put the positive, you know, be an optimist and saying, turn your perceived weakness into your ultimate strength. And so that's what the show is. And so we were pitching it as a TV show or an animated series. And this is how stories evolve, I believe. It evolved into trying to pitch it as a live action series, writing scripts, submitting to TV workshops and through YouTube and Sundance that we came close on a couple. And then it evolved back into the comic book essential form because it became clear that all these shows and TV series and movies were comic books first and intellectual property or literary first. And from that success and audience, built out the universes, the cinematic universes as they stand now. And so we did a Kickstarter for a comic book, raised $11,000, created almost 6,000 comic books, and have completely, almost all distributed all of those comic books on our own. I I work with the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation, so JDRF. I got extra ones of the character that's based on me and the kids I've met with type 1 diabetes called Diabetes. The character based on my friend Jen is called Deadlift. She has superhuman arm strength. There's a character called Aftershock that's very similar to Quake in the Agents of Shield universe, Marvel universe, but
Yep.
she has the power of vibration force because she's voiceless and she can't hear. She's deaf. So she's part of the hearing impaired community and uses vibrations to against her enemies. And so part of what we were doing is not denying the disability and replacing it, like our character with no legs didn't get new legs, right? Because Jen's story, if you're familiar with her name's Jen Bricker. You should look her up. She has a book that you should definitely read. But she is a gymnast, and early on in her life was given the option for prosthetic legs. And at that point, even as a kid, she felt encumbered by the legs. She felt like they were an impediment and chose not to wear the prosthetic legs, and has lived an amazing, blessed life. And she's a motivational speaker. She's an aerialist. She's an amazing person that didn't need prosthetic legs to make her feel whole. And so that was important for us to give these characters superpowers. Like, for example, the character with autism on the spectrum is Brainstorm, because he is an amazing artist. He's able to see something and draw it to its exact form, but he's also imaginatory. He's imaginative, right? So he'll draw dragons a lot, and he'll draw all these like medieval weapons. And so his power is, kind of using his mind powers to bring those drawings to life and use them as weapons against his enemies. And so their weaknesses also don't deny their condition. So like my character needs his pump and glucometer and his continuous glucose meter charged, so he needs battery power, but he also needs to make sure his blood sugar doesn't drop too low, because then he'll be too weak to fight his enemies. So we transitioned it into comic books, and currently we realize for the demographic that we're looking at, middle readers, we're looking at a graphic novel, and the artist, my friend and co-writer Dave Malbach, and my other co-writer Josh Taub, and I, actually Dave has taken the scripts that we have written and the stories that we have written already, and is compiling it into a graphic novel that's more geared towards early mid readers. So like, I'll give you an example: Captain Underpants or Dogman. Those books that are, kind of popular in that age group are a model for what we're going to do with the Kinetics going forward. So within the next year or two, I'm hoping that we could put that out and either pitch it to publishing companies or, again, do a Kickstarter to distribute it ourselves. I mean, graphic novel is going to be 150, 200 pages. So it's going to be a lot longer and a lot more, money to produce. But I'm hoping that we can get connected with a distributor and go from there. But Dave is busy doing all the drawings now. It's awesome.
It's wonderful. It's a great idea. I certainly hope that it gets the attention it deserves. I think it's wonderful.
Yeah.
You've mentioned having type 1 a few times. So from the acting perspective, how does it kind of manifest itself on set? Because on set, it's crazy. It's 12, 16-hour days. It's ridiculous. How do you deal with that, and how do you make sure that you're good to go?
Right. So as an actor, physically, emotionally, vocally, you have to be trained, warmed up, and ready go the distance, to do any number of things, either if it's a stunt or if it's a physical, ailment, or vocally to be able to play the full range of your voice so that your breath and your voice are not stopping the emotions that you're feeling inside from coming out. And some of that's done with stretching and exercises that you learn throughout your life. And so to be at the top level as an actor, it's almost as important, if not more, because you're also expressing emotions, to be at a level that's similar to a professional athlete. So knowing that, and kind of looking up as a type 1 diabetic to professional athletes that have type 1 diabetes, like there's a hockey player, Max Domi, that is type 1 diabetic. And so when he's on the ice and he has to perform at the same level as everyone else that doesn't have type 1 diabetes, he has to make sure his numbers, his levels, and his energy is at the place that is going to give him the best opportunity to perform at the highest level. And so as a diabetic actor, I have to do the same thing. Luckily, technology and research and funding has gotten management of diabetes to the point where I can wear an insulin pump that I've worn for about 20 years, or over 20 years. That is a device that pumps insulin into your body automatically, and then when you eat meals or a snack, you adjust it, or you give yourself a dose based on how many carbohydrates you're eating. And then the most recent, and probably what's been touted as like the most revolutionary device that has happened since the invention or creation of insulin as a product, so that diabetics weren't going to die and that they could survive. Continuous glucose monitors, CGMs, are devices that you're starting to see commercials for now. Dexcom is one of them. I use an Enlight sensor from Medtronic. There's Tandem. There's a couple of different models out there, but what it does is at every point in the day, you're able to look down at your pump or your device and see where your blood sugar level is. It's not in your veins. It's kind of tested through interstitial fluid, but you could tell what your blood sugar is at every level, at any point, and then where it's trending. So if it's going up, you see it going up. There's an arrow going up or a graph going up. If it's going down, and it's either one arrow going up or 2 hours. If it's going 2 hours, it's going up a lot. If it's 2 hours down, it's going down a lot. One arrow down and up, not so much. So having those things as added things that I put on silent, because if they go off, they could ruin a take. So right now I have mine on silent, so you haven't heard it yet. But I have it on vibrate, so sometimes I was like, do I have a call or is my blood sugar off? So yeah, it's having those things, having a couple people on set aware of this situation, even though I'm a public advocate and an ambassador for type 1 diabetes and the JDRF and diabetes in general. I don't go to set and announce to the entire crew and cast that I have type 1. I don't hide it, but it's really no one's business unless we have a conversation and it comes up. But it's essential on a set like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. or a set that I'm only going to be on for one day like Curb, to tell the first AD or the people that are handling me, the AD squad, assistant directors, that if at some point I need to up my blood sugar, it could drop, I'm a diabetic, that having an apple juice handy will be the best solution. And so I always make sure early on in productions to tell those people that could do that to give me, or to have apple juice handy, because specifically apple juice for me, that's just a choice, but it's better than trying to chew something and get it out of your teeth for a take. I could chug it really quick, and it's a clear liquid, so it's not going to give me phlegm as an actor and get in the way of me speaking, and it's not going to get my teeth or be a certain color that's going to If it's grape juice, your tongue's going to be purple. If it's orange juice, you might get a little, you might get a little phlegmy. I just reminded myself of my dad right there.
Well, listen, as a waiter, you could just use it as a part of the scene. You can be drinking apple juice. I think that'll be a very interesting acting choice that could lead somewhere in improv.
Right, while I'm serving, right?
Yeah.
Maybe next time. But yeah, I feel like, again, as an actor, in general, for type 1 diabetic actors and non-diabetic actors, to be aware of your body, your tension, your voice, your instrument, right? My wife's an acting coach, Colleen Basis, and she talks a lot about breath and awareness and presence, even before you start acting, so that when you do start the scene or open your mouth to speak a line, that at least you as a person are aware of where you are at the moment, and then you could kind of step in and say, I'm here. Where does the character need to be? Or do I need to change anything? And is there any tension that's going to get in my way as an actor or an actress to doing the best job as an actor in the scene, as the character? And so diabetes is just an extension of that, and managing it as best I could, as I have now, it's never really gotten in the way. So knock on, yes, knock on wood.
It's the other Jewish thing that we do is
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Gotcha. Well, thank you for sharing that. I know from I think the only exposure that I've had in terms of professional athletes, I think Jay Cutler, who used to be a quarterback for the Chicago, also had it, and media talked about it for a day, and then he just went around doing his job or not doing it, depending on who you talk to at Bears fans.
There's there's the major league pitchers, there's baseball players, there's basketball players. I would say basketball is and hockey are probably the toughest. Hockey's the toughest just because there's such high intensity, and you can't always get off the floor, like that's, or the rink, because there has to be a whistle. So if you're on a line that is kept on the ice for a long time and you're not able to get off, and you have like the technology, the devices that you're wearing, and they're all under your pads, any one point those devices could get jarred loose by a check, or football players too. Jay Cutler, as long as he doesn't get sacked, I guess he's fine. But he was probably sacked more. He's probably sacked more than most quarterbacks. But I'm a Giants fan, so sorry. I know you're a Bears fan.
Listen, I'm okay. I'm not a diehard. You mentioned the Mets. I'm a Cubs fan. I'm not offended. It's fine. All right, let's get to our lightning round. So you've done a ton of projects. You've been on a lot of sets. What was kind of the most favorite of the projects that you've been on?
Wow. Oh my God. That's a tough. Lightning round. It's like, oh my God, things slow down now. You'll ask anyone in my life. I'm very slow and steady wins the race kind of guy. Even when leaving the house, it's a problem that I'm late to things, and that's a constant struggle for me. But I do things slower than normal, but I'll try to be quick. I like to talk about this story because one, it's not on my resume. You can't see it on my reel. It's an experience that that you just can't see, and it's the intangibles of being an actor. And you know, I guess not expanding your resume, but just like putting yourself out there that, you know, more and more at a lot of these award shows and like bigger named actors, you start connecting the dots to experiences in your life.
Yeah.
So to an experience that I was like would be the top, I guess, highlight of my unknown acting creds, is it was narrowed down to me and two other actors to be to play Catherine Keener's son, in a film called The Ballad of Jack and Rose. Initially, at that point, it was called Rose and the Snake, but or The Rose and the Snake, I think. But I think it's called The Ballad of Jack and Rose. So Rebecca Miller, Arthur Miller's daughter, directed it. She wrote and directed this film, with her husband as the lead role, and her husband is Daniel Day-Lewis. So I had auditioned at an open call. My agent submitted me, but didn't get a response. My manager did. So I went to an open call. I kind of went from two angles, and from the open call was narrowed down and given us sides early in the day to come back at 6 p.m. that night to read for the casting director. And obviously it was probably like 10 people. And now did that, felt good. Got a call from my managers that they want to see me to meet the director, Rebecca Miller, and bring you into the casting director's office. And that there's a possibility that Daniel Day-Lewis would be there reading with you. And I'm like, I was actually, when I got that call, I was in the lobby of the actor studio in New York, having just done session or done something rehearsal, and was just like, holy effing shit. And I was like freaked out. I was in the city. I had to get home to like really work on my stuff. And it was like, so it's this balance of like meeting your heroes and kind of like being able to try to work with your heroes. Like, the goal of it, I had read with actors that I had recognized before, but this was the first time I was like reading with someone that was, at that point, it was right when Gangs of New York had come out and he had made his return. He had won an Academy Award already. He was nominated for all these awards. And I was just like, I mean, this is like one of the greatest living actors, and I'm about to read with him. And I was like, I got to bring my A game, So two scenes, right? One scene was with the Catherine Keener character, because that character is playing my mom, and she wasn't there, but Rebecca Miller, who was an actress as well, not only a director, was reading with me, and then Daniel Day-Lewis was there. And I mean, it must have lasted 5, maybe 10 minutes that whole time, but it felt like I was in there for like 20 minutes. And, to be sitting in the waiting room and have him walk in and know that that's what's about to happen with all the other two guys that you're competing against. And it was just like, well, good luck, guys. He's here, and we all go in. And so I did the first scene. We read it again, did it a second time. And they were like, that was great. You want to read the second scene? And I was like, yeah, sure. And I knew the second scene was a direct scene with Daniel Day-Lewis's character. And so I played it, and I felt like I did a pretty good job. And at least I felt like I was able to hang a little, right? He's so warm and kind. And at some point after we did the scene, I had made them laugh, or like we were talking about, because I had been out to LA and they're New York people, and we were kind of hating on LA together, saying like, oh, it's crazy out there, whatever. That we love New York better. We are, etc. And then there was a conversation about a jacket. It said the kid always wore his jacket. So the idea was that he would wear his jacket because his mom changed, they moved so much that he didn't want to take it off, right? He didn't want to get it settled down his roots in any place because they would always be leaving to go somewhere else. And so I looked for that jacket to buy a corduroy jacket like that, and I couldn't find one. And I told them that story that I looked for one to get it. He's like, "You can wear my jacket," and I'm like, "No." I was like, "No, I don't. No, it's okay." So after the scene, we read the two scenes, and they're like, they kind of look at each other like, "You mind doing like a little improv?" And I was like, yeah, sure. I was like a kid. I was like, yeah, of course, whatever. Playing it cool. And then so we improv the scene for like 5 minutes. Because I had read the script and knew the script, I was bringing up things left and right from the script, from the story. He was trying to get me to bond with him, and I was resistant. And finally, it was very similar to the Larry David thing, where he was trying to get me to tell him the tip. He was trying to get me to go for pizza or get some ice cream with him or something. And he was like, "What's your favorite flavor?" Like whatever it was. And I was like, the last thing I said was maybe, right? And they laughed. I made them laugh, right? And we ended as like, and then they kind of ended in a laugh, and it was like, I was like, did I just get this part? But I didn't. I was also a 25, 26-year-old kid trying to play a 17-year-old. And the guy they cast was actually like 17 or 18. And so that was frustrating for me, but at the same time, invigorating and reinforced pretty much all that I had studied in school and was working on as an actor. That given the circumstances that I was bound to find myself in, whether it's Viola Davis or Claire Danes or, people that I found myself, Harvey Keitel, working with, that I wouldn't be so intimidated or enamored that it would distract me from doing my work. And to revere from afar, but respect from up close, and respect enough to hang with them in the scene and to give them as much as they're giving you, is more important than being able to say you're the biggest fan and getting that picture after you work with them and posting it on Instagram or something. That's important for me too, because it's like, it's that relief of, I did the scene, I'm done. Could we take a picture? But sometimes I've been too intimidated to do that. But I feel like it was a good lesson early on, before I had any real major credits, that if in that position, that I was ready, and I could hang, and to be a member of the actor studio and to see people like that, to work with, actor studio veterans like, again, Harvey Keitel, Al Pacino, Ellen Burstyn, Estelle Parsons, and people like that have won Academy Awards and have a laundry list of a career 40, 50, 60 years long, and see them still working on their craft, still perfecting it, still not satisfied with the results that has given them a career as long as they have. Those are lessons that I take with me and keep with me, and see finding their way into my own work every time I work, and trying to emulate them, and trying to be my own actor, be my own version of that. I was thinking about a tool belt. It's funny, having a tool belt, right, versus a toolbox. As an actor, you get enough. If you train and you take classes, you get enough to fill maybe a garage, right? And out of that garage, there's stuff that works for you. All these different techniques, all these different ways to approach the work, to, from the beginning, from the backstory, from the execution of it, and you put those in your toolbox. And then from that toolbox, for any one given role, character, audition that you need to do, you get to say, all right, I'll need the hammer for this one. I need a Phillips head screwdriver instead of a regular screwdriver. I need a pliers, needle nose pliers, because there's, this is a very subtle performance and I need to, get in there, right? Whatever it is. And those are all things like whether it's Meisner, sensory work, improv, classical Shakespeare work. Like I know Tim loves that stuff, and I do as well. But it's like those things, for example, classical work taught me to scan a script and make important the words that were important for the character, what the character is going after. So you look at a script and certain words pop out as the operative words that you need to know for classical work, for Shakespearean scansion, to scan the text so that you can understand it, and so the audience in front of you understands it, because it's so different than the way we speak. But having those tools in my toolbox that I could take out at any time and put in my tool belt for any given role is like an essential part of the continuity of education as an actor, and bringing all these things into your work and leaving the things that aren't useful or obstructive out of the work. Like I can't use sensory work for comedy sometimes because it's fun and games. I have to bring my true personality, my sense of humor into it. And if I get too far out of my kind of fun, smiley, happy-go-lucky personality, if I can't make myself laugh, I'm not going to make anyone else laugh. So if I can't smile, then I can't make anyone laugh. And so that's important to me. Anyway, toolbox, tool belt.
So what are the most commonly used pieces that you're employing in your tool belt on these different projects?
Definitely the scanning of the text. So that I learned that, looking at Shakespeare stuff. So Shakespeare used to only give each actor their own lines. That's why we call it their side of the script, sides, roles, right? So it used to be in roles. It wasn't in pages. So we write it all on the roll, and you would get your role. And so you would get the three, and we practiced. That's what we did in Doug Mawston's Shakespeare class in the Actor Studio Drama School. We would get scenes where we only had our lines. So we had to memorize our lines, and we got the 3 cue words that the other actor would give. So you had to listen, teaches you to listen, to hear those words. And then it also taught you making decisions just based on your dialogue. How a person says something, what they're saying, how they're saying it, whether they're telling the whole truth, whether they're not saying something. You make decisions based on the way sentences are structured and how the words are used and what words are used. So nowadays you get the whole script, but that really helps with these Marvel and DC and secret projects, because sometimes they're dummy sides, or you don't get to read the whole script. Like with guest stars on TV, you don't read the whole script. You just get your sides and a breakdown of the character. So you have to infer what your character choices will be based on not knowing the rest of the story. That helps a lot. My sensory stuff, because I ask a lot of questions and about where a character is emotionally, physically, mentally, what happens before. That's, character work of like, what's the previous circumstances. And if I need to inject any type of sensory work, is the character drinking alcohol, right? That's one, for example. Does the character have a trauma that he's talking about? How do I have that event in my past, or do I have to, substitute an event for me, or imagine an as if, like a magical as if, like So that's the sensory work when it comes to like the emotional stuff. And then just getting to like the heart of what happens in each scene. And this goes to my work on set as well, because I give each scene a name. And that was Philip Seymour Hoffman on the Inside the Actor Studio said he names his scene almost like they're separate plays or separate movies or TV shows. So he'll write, this is the, this is, I'm going to curse here, but this is the fuck shit up scene, right?
Sure.
Or this is the winning the love of your life back scene. You know, so I call them the blank scene. And so when I don't decide that title right away, I usually decide it towards the end of the time I have to prepare. But this way, even right before I go in, I could look at the top of the script and say, scene one, this is the getting your feelings out scene, and this is the apology scene, right?
Cool.
As simple as that. And then going through a script when you shoot out of order, that pays off immensely, because, and then you get creative with it, because it can't always be the apology scene. Like, it's the please, 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 I'm so sorry, sorry, sorry scene. You know, you come up with weird names that make it unique to this character. And it's only the character and your perspective that inform those things. And so I'd say those three things. And I've also started, when I have time, I use what a teacher, Gene Lasco, used to do in this class, and I use it in when I teach as well. So it's 5 exercises that are all technical exercises, but you use the technical exercise to see what comes up emotionally, intellectually, and choice-wise for the characters. So you say the same dialogue, and the 5 different options are: you say it as fast as you can, and you see what that pulls out of you. You say it as slow as you can, like maybe like 3 to 5 seconds between words. So each word starts to take on a different meaning and more important meaning. You say it as loud as you can. And you say it as soft as you can. So the loud one really engages your full body. So when you shout and you get your breath activated, if you're feeling something underneath, it's coming out, right? Whether it's tears, anger, emotion, laughter, that's coming out. And then the softness stuff, it's like you say it without voice and without using your vocal cords. So it's a whisper like this. And so you close your eyes, and it's more about when you say each word or each sentence, what you're feeling inside. You don't worry about how it's being presented outside. And then the 5th one is, which is tough, is better for stage, because as people, we don't talk like this, you know, like you would on stage. We usually talk and shrug our shoulders and keep our arms at our sides or in our pockets or folded when we're in real life. So the physical one, you physicalize each word. So what that does for the stage is bring you out of your own mannerisms. It forces you to express. And I'm telling you, every time I do this, you find 1 or 2 things that you could bring at least back into the scene that that enrich the scene. And so it's, even if I'm saying the most important thing here is this word, right? And you just go from there. And so for like the stage, it brings you out of your body. And for TV and film, where people don't do that a lot because they're being more naturalistic, it allows you to physicalize it and gives you that freedom in one way of the scene, one version of the scene, that you're allowed to physically express, almost like you're expressing it to someone that can't hear you across a divide, like a a bridge or, you know, a building, like in a window. And then you do it again afterwards normally, and those things live inside of you, even if you don't move at all. And it's very like buttoned up and subtle and very British, or, you know, they,
Posh.
you know, repressed, right? Those things are there. And if there's an emotion that comes out, it might just come out to like a, like that, and then you'd stop. Like it could be that simple.
Yeah. This is
Anyway,
great. This is great. Thank you for sharing that. I'm shooting a scene tomorrow. It's my first one, during COVID time. I've kind of started going over it, and I've done my breakdowns. But these are a lot of very good things that I'm going to start utilizing immediately, and
yeah, yeah, yeah.
we'll see how it plays. We'll see how it plays tomorrow.
And you'll see how each one, you know, I try to use all of them when I have the time, but
Yeah,
sometimes you have to cherry pick what you think you need to kind of drum out of a scene, to get out of your own way, to find out what your instincts are telling you. Yeah, there's my friend George Gallagher also does another technique where um, it's about trusting your instincts. It's a whole technique that you should look up, but uh, I've tried to incorporate that as well, to get out of, because as an actor, you get an audition, you have a little time, you tend to think it through really quick, right? And make decisions really quick. And so when you're trying to like break out of your normal, your normal meter, the way you talk, the way you think, the way you say certain phrases, um, it's a good technique. And the basic technique is, he knows it better than I do, but it's basically looking down without really knowing the dialogue early on in actually rehearsal, before you made any decisions, looking down, reading a sentence, kind of feeling how that sentence make you, even when you memorize the lines too, how that sentence makes you feel, and then looking up and saying it, and not
yeah,
worrying about saying it in a certain way, but taking what you just felt about that line and
yeah,
saying it and putting it into the sentence, and then looking back down and not having any. You don't even have to say the whole sentence. You don't even have to say it ended at the period. It
yeah.
helps you memorize, but it also helps you um, learn to trust your instincts and learn to speak like a normal person and not an actor.
Yeah, I've heard of something similar. There's a book that I have on my bookshelf over there. It's called How Not to Act or How to Stop Acting.
That's
Uh,
it.
yeah, so that's what he was talking about. I'm like,
Yeah,
this is great. I love it because it allows me to get out of my head and I can just connect to my emotional place at that time, which on the second time I'm going to do that line, it'll be different.
yeah,
And I'm okay with it.
yeah,
And yeah, I think, talking to I don't know if it was Tim. It was not actually Tim. It was Malachi Weir who was talking about Paul Giamatti, and he's
yeah,
saying Paul is doing a scene, and then next time he's doing a take. Next time it's very different. It's whatever he feels like, and he's playing with it. And he allows himself that freedom of just playing and trying. So
yeah,
tomorrow, if I get an opportunity of doing multiple takes, they are not going to be the same for sure because
yeah,
I want to explore and then let them decide which one they like.
yeah. Totally. I mean, for me to being a series regular on a TV show, you're the continuity through the story. Besides the writers writing the arcs,
Yeah.
you're the continuity that carries that story through. Directors change every episode. You know, they do short-lived series that are 6 episodes where same writer and director do every episode, but that's more rare. And
Mhm.
usually, the directors rotate, so you're the person that is in charge of the integrity of the character and the
Yeah.
story. So for me as JT, for example, I would get similar storylines early on in the early, being frustrated, yelling at him, you know, saying, don't go meet Catherine and all this stuff. And for directors coming in, it's the first time they're hearing me do this. But in the arc of the series, tracking my character's arc, I know this is the 5th time I'm giving him this speech. So that's going to make a difference whether it's the 1st or the 5th time. And knowing that and knowing what that requires, I'm going to make choices based on that and be ready to play, but make the choice I want to choose, or the instincts that I have and the choices that I've worked on, put them out there first. And if they don't work, then we kind of roll with it. Or the director wants something different. Like I did uh, what's called a show called Life on Mars, right? It was the first time I worked with that director, Gary Fleeter, that directed Life Unexpected and Beauty and the Beast. And he directed this episode. They were redoing the pilot, and most of my scene was with Jason O'Mara. Harvey Keitel and Michael Imperioli were in it, but I didn't really work with them one-on-one, other than them roughing me up and taking me out in handcuffs and stuff. But basically, we did this scene over and over, right? Where I hold the gun to him and I'm threatening him. I'm going to shoot him. He wants to talk me down from shooting him. And I did it with as much pathos and vulnerability and, trying to make this disturbing character I was playing, sympathetic, because that's my goal. It's like, if you can make a character that's kidnapped people and committed crime sympathetic, then I think you've achieved something as an actor.
Yeah.
But you've also made him a little creepier, because if he's really that pathetic, then but whatever. I don't think he's pathetic. I just think he is protecting himself, and he's coming from I'm not judging his perspective. So that's where it came from. I came as a vulnerable, beat upon, person who's had a bad life and is trying to find love and is trying to find a better life. And like, for that character not to make me shoot him. Don't make me do it. Don't make me. You're making me do this. I don't want to do this. I'm not a killer, And then we did those takes all day. And then the final take we got, it was like my close up. Gary was like, you know what? Just have fun with this. Like, try to find, I think he's having fun. Like, try to see if you can have fun as the character. And there may be some places to laugh and really laugh at the other character's expense, right? We got the other stuff that's in there. It's in the can. And so I did that, and I was laughing, and I was like, you don't make me, and I'm like doing all these lines and really having fun with it, like as a crazy character, until I get knocked over and, beat the crap out of. But really had fun with it. And he wound up, as a good director and editor do, cutting both together.
Wow.
So he chose a laugh here or there. He chose he chose the vulnerable stuff back and forth. He probably used the laugh ones a little more because that's where he wanted the character to go. But he went there on my time. But anyway, it's like you get in a situation like that where you have your choices, you're playing out your choices, and you've totally tapped the tank for those choices. That's why Kubrick and I think Nolan does a lot of takes, and David Fincher, they do anywhere from 20 to 40 takes of things. And somewhere in the 10 to 15, you start getting bored and fed up and sounding like you're acting. And then probably in the 15 to 25, you start finding new stuff and getting all the bullshit out of the way. Unfortunately, in most TV, you don't have time to do that. You do 2 or 3 takes for every shot, and then you move on. So you wing it.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
For the sake of others, I think we should wrap it up. No, I want to ask you a lot more questions. So please come back and maybe
part 8 of the series.
Maybe I can have you and Tim come by together so we can.
That'd be awesome.
talk shop. That would be great.
Yeah.
If you had to, if you had the opportunity to go back in time and talk to a young acting version of yourself and give one piece of acting advice, what would that be?
Oh, one piece of acting advice. Hey, hey. I Now I feel like I'm watching a series called Dark. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it's a really amazing German series on Netflix. Um, you could watch it. I think you watch it with subtitles, but we're watching it dubbed. It is. It's just if you like sci-fi and time,
I
you
do.
know, uh, philosophy and life, and the circle of life and time, and it's a good show for that. I don't want to tell you too much, but um, I feel like, and this might give a hint about what the series is about, but I feel like if I gave my own self advice, then
Like,
something would have changed and I wouldn't have had the path that I've had. So I think with giving other people advice, um, in an alternate in an alternate version of myself or other young actors, um, well, if it was myself, I would say just try to read more plays, read more books. I'm a slow reader, so it's a definitely a hurdle that is. But when I have to read a book, I do. It's just when I don't have to, I just read scripts and magazine articles, and
yeah.
I find myself reading shorter stuff. I like writing, but I've only written short films and poetry. So I'm a very, I don't know if it's my attention or my patience, but um, I would also just I would say um, be more prepared. Um, One of my acting teachers in undergrad, again, Gene Lesser, was like, you will get the opportunities. It's not necessarily luck, it's timing and luck, right? So um, the luck is an audition, a role, a situation crossing your path at the right time, right? Um, Someone said like destiny and luck. I think there's an expression like that where destiny and luck meet, or preparedness and luck. Destiny is where preparedness and luck meet. I would say that I had several, even in this, in the career I've had several opportunities that I wasn't either as prepared as I should have been, or didn't seize the moment as much as I can. And I've done that as an adult, as a, 30, 40 something, but these are some of the things in my 20s, and early 30s, honestly, that had I had that opportunity now, um, I guess I would know how to be prepared, but and Google would have been around, so I would have been much more able to get a full scope and YouTube and all that stuff, full scope of what I needed to do to be prepared. But in today's day and age, there's no excuse not to be prepared or ready for something. And it's unfortunate if you get the opportunity too early, but just know and try to recognize the opportunities when they come, because when you haven't gotten a lot of opportunities, you don't know how often they're going to come after that, right? Appreciating when I've been a series regular, you know, that's not a normal thing to be multiple series regular. Some people do it, but it's something that I feel like, to appreciate and enjoy when you are, which I was much more able to do in Beauty and the Beast in the latter half of the series than I was with Life Unexpected, right?
Yep.
So, you know, I think you can never be over prepared. There are some things some scripts where I feel instinctually they come to me quicker, or dialogue that comes to me quicker. So I don't want to, as my teacher used to say, ground it into a fine powder. You know, it's not a medicine that I'm trying to ground into powder. It's, you know, you're crafting, right? So each entity is its own thing. Each piece of rock isn't the sculpture until you find what it is underneath, right? I think Martin Landau at the studio used to say that. It's like, you know, it's always the sculpture. It's just a rock now, and there's something underneath that you just have to find. And the other thing is, if you're prepared, another Martin Landauism, but if you're prepared, you shouldn't be afraid to drown. Acting is diving in and knowing that you're going to be able to swim to the surface, but trusting that you're not going to drown. And again, it's only acting. What are you going to be embarrassed afterwards? What's the worst thing that could happen, right?
Yeah.
You do it again, do take two, or you embarrass yourself and you redeem yourself the next time, you know? You learn a lesson. There's a lesson to be learned everywhere. So, yeah, be prepared and trust yourself.
Perfect. Well, listen, I think the 50th interview is kind of a nice microcosm of where the show is. It's the ability to get really deep and talk to really talented, interesting people who want to share. And that's what I got out of this one. So I'm really, really, really happy. And we beat Tim's time in terms of the length of the interview.
I know.
So
I'm competitive. You know, Tim,
that's why I wanted to mention
Tim's
that.
a Boston Red Sox fan, and I'm a Mets fan. He's got a couple more championships than me in the past few years, but I'll always have 86 over him.
I know, and you also have it over us, but we're not going to talk about that.
Well, that's true, but we didn't win the World Series after that.
I know. Listen, you and Tim are not, the Boston Red Sox and Mets. They're not natural kind of, natural enemies. So it's not like you're a Yankees fan, at least. So.
No, back when the Yankees sucked, I used to go and root for them when the Mets and them weren't as rivalrous because of the Subway Series and interleague stuff. When that happened, that started being like a headbutting thing. Yeah. But my wife is a Red Sox fan, and I'm a Mets fan. So together, we could root against the Yankees.
That's true.
Match made in heaven.
That works. Yeah, I have one of my really close friends. They live close to the Mets. Is it still called the Shea Stadium, or is it changed now?
Citi Field now. It's still there.
Yeah. So I because again I'm a huge tennis nut. So So, but they're a big Mets fan, and they come out to Chicago, and sometimes we go to see Brewers games because we're close by. And and the Mets were playing the Brewers. So the kids got in, and one of the kids, he's wearing a Brewers kind of a jersey, and then he's wearing a Mets thing underneath. And then he comes out and he's like, "They scored," buttoning back up.
That's awesome. You said you're a tennis fan?
I'm a tennis fan, yeah.
You ever read the book, The Inner Game of Tennis?
No. Who is it by?
Timothy Galway.
Okay.
Galway. One of my acting teachers had me read that and substitute acting for tennis, even though I like tennis as well. My wife and I play. It's a really interesting book to read for the psychology of sports, but also the psychology of approaching the execution of anything, like technique, etc. You study all these techniques, and then you have to go do them, and you can't be in the studying while you're executing it. You have to leave all that behind. And so it's an awesome book for a tennis player, but also for actors to read and to kind of help them get out of their own way.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. Again, I've noticed that, and I've talked to my tennis coach about it. Is when you're there playing a match, you cannot be focused on your footwork. You cannot be focused on your forehand. You have to be playing. So, there is training and then there is playing, and you have to be in that moment. So it's all completely directly appropriate to acting. I completely agree with you.
Yeah, it's a quick read too. It's especially when I was younger and couldn't read as fast, like in college. I read it. It's like, maybe 100, 200 pages or something, but it's definitely a quick read, but it's interesting because it's like takes you through this guy's, approach to improving his tennis game. But at the same time, I'm likening it to acting, and anyone can liken it to whatever their sport or craft is. And I think it works just as well. It's just about really the psychology of trusting your instincts, doing the work to study, train, and either educate yourself, and then letting that go and trusting that it has become a part of you and will be there when you need it.
Yeah, perfect. And I can't think of any better way to end that. So people, trust yourselves. Trust yourselves. It'll be there when you need it. Thank you so much for coming on. I really, really enjoyed speaking with you. I appreciate it. And I couldn't have asked for a better guest for my 50th.
50. 50.
50. 50.